I still hear the echo of Rachel's voice ripping through the church like a blade straight into my chest. "You're pathetic, Emma. You're throwing your life away for a waiter," she screamed that day in front of our entire family, her voice laced with venom and too many glasses of champagne. In that moment, with my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out, I realized this wasn't just about my wedding. This was about years of silent wars. Snide comments at Thanksgiving, those side eyes across brunch tables. I'd always been the good girl, the quiet one, the teacher who settled for simplicity, while Rachel flaunted designer heels and her hedge fund husband like trophies. But that day, when her words echoed off the stained glass, I saw something raw in her eyes, a terror that I might finally be happy without her approval. Little did she know, the man she called just a server was about to reveal a truth that would shatter her glossy world, wide open. And me, I had to decide if family meant unconditional love, or if some wounds went too deep to ever really heal. I wish I could say I felt victorious that day. But the truth, it felt like setting fire to the last bridge between us and watching her silhouette disappear in the smoke. I can still feel the tremor in my fingers from that moment. Rachel standing up in the middle of my wedding, her voice slicing through the quiet like a siren. "Emma, stop this nonsense. You're marrying a damn waiter. You're better than this." The whole church froze. My mom gasped. My dad sank into the pew. James squeezed my hand so gently it almost broke me. For a second, I thought I might faint crumble right there in my ivory dress. But instead, I felt this strange warmth rush into my chest, a twisted mix of heartbreak and relief. She had finally said out loud everything she'd been poisoning me with for years. We used to share bunk beds, steal each other's clothes, whisper secrets in the dark. But somewhere along the way, she decided love was measured by luxury cars and private jets. When she married Michael, the hedge fund superstar, she floated above the rest of us like a smug little queen. Meanwhile, I stayed a high school teacher, wore thrift store dresses, drank cheap red wine on weekends. James, my sweet, brilliant James, had been waiting tables when we met, or so she thought. That one detail enough for her to call me pathetic in front of everyone we loved. Her words weren't just loud, they were sharp, each syllable a bullet. As she stormed toward the altar, her designer heels clicking like gunshots, I remembered all those moments she overshadowed me. That diamond necklace she bragged about buying Mom while I gave a scrapbook, the endless comparisons at dinners, the fake hugs. Now she was here determined to ruin the happiest day of my life. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, James had a secret so big it would flip her world upside down. As she pushed past guests, I almost pitied her. Almost. Because deep down, I knew this was the beginning of something neither of us could ever undo. The moment we stepped into the reception hall, a hush fell across the room. Crystal chandeliers glittered above marble floors. Champagne flowed like rivers. Every table was dressed in white roses and flickering candles. Rachel had expected a backyard potluck. She never imagined the Romano family's flagship restaurant would close just for us. She froze in the doorway, face twisted in shock. Her sequined clutch clutched like a life raft. This, this can't be real, she sputtered, her voice cracking under the weight of the truth. James appeared beside me, his posture effortless, his confidence radiating like sunlight. "Welcome to Romano," he said, smooth as velvet. Rachel's eyes darted wildly, searching for a flaw, a hidden camera, anything to prove this was all fake. Then Antonio James's grandfather and patriarch of the Romano Empire stepped forward. He wrapped James in a warm hug, beaming with pride. "My grandson finally married the right girl," he announced, his deep voice echoing across the marble. The guests gasped, forks frozen midair, eyes glued on us. Rachel dropped her glass shards crashing onto the floor. "What do you mean, grandson?" She choked out the words barely forming. Antonio turned his gaze, slicing through her like a blade. "You're the sister who insulted my grandson at church, right? The one who called him some server." The color drained from Rachel's face fast. She looked like a porcelain doll ready to crack. Her lips trembled. No words came. Around us, whispers spread like wildfire. For a moment, I felt a sharp, delicious satisfaction, that same high you get when you finally win an argument you've replayed in your head for years. But then I saw her teetering there in her designer heels, something twisted inside me. She wasn't just humiliated, she was broken. James squeezed my hand, steadying me. Then he stepped forward. Stay, watch, learn who we really are, he said softly. Rachel looked at him, eyes wide, vulnerable, in a way I'd never seen before. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I wanted her to stay or to run. Rachel stayed. Of course she did. She was too proud to leave, too obsessed with appearances to just vanish into the night. But I saw her hands shaking as she picked up another glass of champagne, her voice cracking when she tried to laugh along with distant cousins. After Antonio's announcement, guests swarmed James, toasting us like we were some fairy tale royalty. Meanwhile, Rachel stood by the wall, her eyes darting from one conversation to the next, like a cornered animal looking for an escape. She finally approached me after the cake cutting. Her mascara was smudged, her eyes red and swollen. Emma, I didn't know, she whispered. Her voice, so small it barely sounded human. You never cared to know, I shot back, my heart thudding against my ribs. Her eyes filled with tears. But I didn't feel sorry, not yet. She hesitated, then leaned in closer. I made a mistake. Let me explain. I thought you were throwing your life away. I was trying to protect you. I laughed, a sharp, cold laugh that bounced off the marble floors. Protect me by humiliating me in front of everyone I love. She clutched my arm, nails digging into my skin. Emma, please, people are watching. Let's not do this here. Oh, we're doing this right here, I snapped, my voice low, slicing. Because you always do everything exactly where people can see it. Her mouth opened, then shut. Before she could respond, James appeared beside me, his gaze calm but sharp. Everything okay? He asked, eyes flicking between us. Rachel's lips parted it again, but no words came. She turned away, her face twisted in shame. Desperation spilling from her like cheap perfume. But I saw it, that flicker in her eyes. A plan. Something dark and sharp forming behind those tears. She might have been embarrassed tonight, but she wasn't defeated. Later, as I stepped outside to breathe, I heard her on the phone, her voice low, frantic. We need to fix this. I don't care what it takes. We can't let them win. My stomach dropped. I thought she was about to apologize, that maybe she had finally broken through all that armor. But no, she wasn't sorry. She was plotting. That night I watched her dance, watched her fake smiles. My gut twisted with dread. I thought the battle was over. But standing there in the cold Boston night, I realized she hadn't even started fighting yet. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for the war she was about to unleash. I thought Rachel's meltdown at my wedding would be the final explosion, but her real collapse. It came months later, and it was so much more tragic than I ever imagined. It started with a late-night knock on our penthouse door. I opened it to find her standing there, drenched in rain, mascara running down her face like black rivers. Her hair was tangled. She clutched her designer bag like it was the last piece of her old life. They're taking everything, she sobbed before I could even speak. She stumbled into the living room, collapsing onto the white couch James hated because he said it felt too cold. Michael, he's been arrested. Insider trading, fraud, everything's frozen, the house, the accounts, even the damn Porsche. James looked up from his laptop, his face pale blank. You mean he's going to prison? He asked softly. Rachel nodded, her entire body shaken. I don't know what to do, Emma. I have nothing, nothing. I wanted to feel triumphant. This was the same sister who called me pathetic for loving a waiter. The same sister who mocked my thrift store dresses, my simple dinners, my quiet life. But all I felt of a cold, hollow ache. She reached for my hands, her grip so tight it hurt. Please, Fed, help me. I don't know how to start over. I don't even know how to buy groceries, she gasped, her voice shattering into ugly, heaving sobs. James moved beside me, his hand gently pressing into my back. We exchanged a look, 1,000 unspoken words passing between us. Should we help her? Could we? I thought of all the nights I cried after her insults, the holidays where I felt like a guest in my own family. But there she was now, no designer armor, no sneer, just a scared, desperate woman. There's an apartment above one of our restaurants in Cambridge, James finally said, his voice steady but firm. It's small, basic, but safe. You can stay there. Rachel's eyes widened. You'd do that after everything I did to you? One condition, I added, my voice low even. You work in the restaurant from the ground up. Her face twisted in horror. Wait, you want me to? Yes, James cut in. Wait tables, bus dishes, cook, learn what it means to earn your place. She stared at us, her breath coming in ragged waves. Finally, she nodded. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Okay, okay, just don't leave me alone. In that moment, I didn't know if we were saving her or setting her free. But one thing was clear, her real battle, it was just beginning. The first morning at the Cambridge restaurant, Rachel looked like a ghost of her old self. No silk blouses, no Louboutins, just a plain black polo, non-slip sneakers, and an apron that still smelled faintly of garlic and bleach. She avoided my eyes as I handed her a notepad and a tray. Start simple, I said softly, though my heart thudded with a cruel mix of worry and satisfaction. Take orders, listen, watch. She nodded stiffly, her shoulders squared like she was marching onto a battlefield. The first few days a total disaster. She dropped glasses, forgot table numbers, spilled hot pasta all over a businessman's crisp white shirt. The chef cursed so loud I thought Rachel might just collapse right there. I watched her cry in the walk-in fridge, her hands shaking as she wiped her tears with the hem of her apron. But she didn't quit. The staff, they hated her at first. They saw her as the spoiled socialite, the woman who used to look down on all of them from penthouse windows. And maybe she did. Once, but slowly, painfully, she began to change. On her fourth week, I watched her stay late to help the dishwasher scrubbing pans until her nails broke her fingers red and raw. She started bringing coffee for the early morning prep crew, remembering everyone's names, even the dishwasher's kid's birthday. One night, she quietly paid for a customer's meal after they complained about a long wait, her hands trembling as she offered a genuine apology. It wasn't an act this time. Something inside her had cracked, and maybe, just maybe, something real was growing there. But the humiliation. It wasn't over. Regulars started recognizing her from old social media posts, the charity galas, the glittering parties. Isn't that the hedge fund wife? They'd whisper, eyes gleaming with cruel curiosity. One night, as we mopped the floor together under the yellow glow of the closing lights, I finally asked her, "Why haven't you run away yet?" She looked up at me, her eyes raw but steady, because I finally realized there's nowhere left to run. This is the first place I've felt real in years. For the first time, I believed her. As we locked up that night, stepping into the cold Boston air, something shifted inside me. I didn't forgive her yet, but I saw it, a tiny, fragile seed of respect starting to sprout. 6 months slipped by like pages in a book we weren't ready to finish. Rachel had become almost unrecognizable. Not just her look, but the way she moved, the way she breathed. Her hair, once perfectly curled and glossy, now tied back in a messy knot. Her hands rough scarred with tiny burns and knife slips, but she wore them like medals. One evening I showed up early. I saw her standing up for a young hostess who was being yelled at by a rude customer. Rachel's voice, calm but sharp as a blade. "Sir, if you can't respect my staff, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." The man turned red, then stormed out. The other servers. They looked at her with awe and relief. I stood in the doorway, frozen. It felt like I was seeing my sister for the first time in decades. When the last table cleared out that night, she collapsed into a chair exhausted, but glowing in a way no designer dress had ever made her look. I sat next to her, sliding a warm cup of chamomile tea her way. She took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Not just for the tea, but for this chance." I was so blind for so long. I looked into her eyes, the same eyes that used to roll when I wore thrift store dresses, that used to cut me down with a single glance. But tonight, no judgment, only vulnerability. James joined us, tossing a damp towel over his shoulder. "They like you," he said, his voice gentle, a small proud smile tugging at the corners of his lips. You've earned their respect. Rachel's lips trembled. I didn't know what respect felt like. I thought people respected me for what I had, but that was fear or pity or envy. James leaned in, his voice low and certain. You've learned the hard way, and that's the only way some lessons stick. A lump rose in my throat, they said. It was the first time in years I wanted to hug her, but instead I just put my hand over hers. A long silence settled, heavy but comforting. Then she looked at me, tears slipping down her cheeks. Emma, I'm so sorry for all of it. I didn't answer with words. I just squeezed her hand back, tighter than I ever had before. In that tiny moment, I let myself believe maybe for the first time that people really could change. A week after that quiet night, James called a staff meeting. Rachel shuffled in, last her hair damp from Boston drizzle, her cheeks pink from the cold. She looked nervous, an expression so foreign on her once always confident face. James stood in the center, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a clipboard loosely. He cleared his throat, then looked straight at Rachel. We have an opening for a new manager here, he began, his voice calm but echoing through the room. Someone who understands every role, who's proven they can lead with backbone and heart. Rachel's eyes widened. Her mouth dropped open as if she forgot how to form words. I stepped forward, unable to hide my smile. We think you're ready, I said, my voice trembling just enough to show how much this meant. Her face crumpled instantly. She pressed a hand to her lips, her shoulders shaking, as quiet sobs broke free. Me after, everything she whispered, barely breathing. James nodded. Yes, you've earned it, not because of your name, not because of your old life, but because of who you've become. I took another step forward and opened my arms. She collapsed into me, hugging me so tight, I almost lost my breath. I felt her tears on my neck, warm, desperate, like a final release of all the guilt she'd carried. I don't deserve you, she sobbed into my shoulder. Maybe not. I whispered back, my voice soft, almost a breath. But you're trying, and that's more than I ever thought I'd see. When she finally pulled away, her eyes were puffy, but bright, alive in a way I had never seen before. James slipped her a set of keys. She took them like they were the most delicate, priceless thing in the world. That night, as we locked up, I watched her check every table, greet each dishwasher by name, help a cook fix a broken sauce bottle. She moved with a gentle authority that felt so real, it nearly broke my heart all over again. Walking home hand in hand with James, I felt the weight of the past year wash over me. The betrayal, the humiliation, the small mercies, the unexpected laughter. Do you think she's really changed? I asked him quietly under the streetlights. He squeezed my hand, a knowing smile curling on his lips. People don't wear new masks this long if they aren't becoming the person they're pretending to be. I looked back one last time at the restaurant door, and for the first time in years, I felt hope. Fragile, trembling, but real. Watching Rachel close up the restaurant that night, it felt like watching a ghost finally find peace. After all the venomous words, the slammed doors, the icy glares across dinner tables, there she was, wiping down counters with her sleeves rolled up, smiling at each staff member like they were family. I don't know if she's completely changed. Maybe she never will be perfect. Maybe none of us will. But I learned something more important. Love isn't about big, grand gestures or shiny apologies. It's about tiny, stubborn steps forward. It's the slow stitching of trust back into the seams of a broken relationship. Standing beside James, I felt the echo of every old wound. But I also saw new beginnings flickering softly in the dark. Rachel's tears didn't erase her mistakes, but they watered something new, something stronger, something truer than any luxury she ever flaunted. Sometimes family isn't about who shares your last name. It's about who stays, who shows up when the kitchen floor is covered in dishwater and broken plates, who's willing to get their hands dirty beside you. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you love or watched someone claw their way out of their own darkness, you know how painfully beautiful it can be. And if you're still waiting for someone to change or trying to change yourself, remember, healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's humbling, but it can be real. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you felt something, a twinge of hope, a rush of anger, or maybe just a gentle ache, I invite you to stay. Subscribe, share your story in the comments, or just sit quietly and reflect. I'll be here, ready to whisper another secret into your ear whenever you're ready.